Hello, Kristen.
Hi.
Hi, everyone. My name is Tashmica Torok, and I'm the founder and executive director of the Firecracker Foundation, who is also having very strange internet issues today. And so that's why Kristen was like, hello, surprise, everyone. Just, it's the me show.
I know you want to hang out with me today.
This is what's happening. I don't know what's going on with my internet. So if I pop in and out, it'll be a surprise to all of us. Because who doesn't love surprises?
Like magic tricks or something.
Yeah, we're totally in the matrix. So everyone, we are continuing our conversation about what it means to defund the police. As I said, my name is Tashmica Torok, she, her, and I am the executive director of the Firecracker Foundation and also a survivor of child sexual abuse and incest. And started this organization as a way to create what I would have wanted when I was a kid. And what I would have wanted was something that really focused on healing. And so as everything in the world has erupted around police brutality and state-sanctioned violence, finally, we are entering into this conversation from a space of healing justice. And so my friend Kristen is here, my friend, my cousin, my former roller derby coach, and volunteer and donor, because I wanted to give people a look at what it looks like to walk through the process of being new to the ideas around abolitionist theories. So, Kristen, can you share what you felt like the first time that you ever heard the words defund the police?
Of course. It was a shock, to be honest. It was one of those, I feel like the words can feel, especially for white people, shocking and new. Defund, abolish, those are very sharp words. And so if you don't, I feel like, have any kind of background or information on really what that means or what alternatives are out there for policing, it just seems scary because you instantly go to that reaction of, but won't the world just be chaos? Won't there just be, people breaking laws everywhere if we don't have police? And it was definitely a kind of eye-opening, jaw-dropping moment of, okay, I'm angry and I want to help my Black and brown brothers and sisters feel safer and know that, we're creating a safer and more open and welcoming world for generations to come. But I don't know how to fix that. And I think for me, I am very much a person that when I hear a problem, I want to immediately think of the solution and offer solutions and fix it. And I think that has been kind of the culture of the world, that we'll just throw a Band-Aid on it and we'll fix it by having more trainings and making people learn what these words mean and make them learn about people that are different from them. But I also know that learning and sitting in a class and hearing words is very different than learning in a way that actually changes behavior. So it was very shocking at first. It was very nerve-wracking. And then it is when you kind of get into that question of what are the trainings that we're doing to have people be thinking, I don't even know, like you said it, and that was the thing that blew my mind, but like, you can't train racism out of a white supremacist. Like, it's true. And I think as an LGBT individual that has sat through lots of different LGBT trainings, I love that it's giving education to people. But it's a training where you're sitting and you're hearing and you're listening. And even if you do offer great collaboration and opportunity to ask questions and give feedback, exactly that, you can't unbake these these thoughts and traditions and ways of thinking that have been ingrained in people for generations, and just sitting them down and asking them to learn about something that's different from them doesn't challenge enough, I don't think. So scary, but I get it.
Yeah, one of the things that I have been thinking a lot about is how we learn. And one of the reasons that I've been thinking about learning specifically is because of the fact that our schools have been shut down. And we don't know what schools are, which, by the way, if you hear a child behind me yell about a helicopter, perhaps, that's because someone is playing video games right behind me. So they're very critical.
It's me and my child acting like a idiot. So you've been warned.
So with schools not being here, I've been looking at what unschooling is and what deschooling is, and these terms around homeschooling outside of Levi Joseph, my love. Hey, Levi. And now he's also going to ignore me. Welcome to my home, everyone. I need you to be quieter. Huh? I can't. Okay, sorry. We're trying to work. We're learning about business casual lifestyle right now in our home. So anyway, and because I was like, this is such a stressful moment for my kids, how can I foster a space that feels less stressful while also wanting them to learn? But we are in this moment where we're asking people to become an abolitionist. You have 2 minutes, get it together. And when and become anti-racist right away. And unfortunately, that's not true, right? We've been asking for this forever, for many, many centuries. Yeah. And also there is in learning, you also need practice, and then you need reflection, and then you need more learning. And so when I'm thinking about people trying to understand from a space of whiteness, from a space of not having been in anti-racism work, then also being like, oh, if we just give them a training, but they're us, they're practicing on Black people. And the reflection is police brutality. And then when we tell them that they need to be accountable, they're like, oh, well, we'll just do another training. But we're the practice site. Like, our bodies are actually the physical practice site, and it's causing death, and it's causing harm in a way that is causing disabilities, and causing harm in a way that is impacting our ability to vote, our ability to move back into the community, our ability to not be incarcerated, to our economic ability to find jobs. I mean, the expansiveness of the harm of that practice is so big, but yet we keep inviting people into like, but here, let me teach you. And then you can just continue to practice on my community.
And that was, so you're saying that, and you have to learn and you have to educate yourself and all of these pieces that are education. And my thought went to, and you also need opportunities for correction. And for me, that's where, and so this is something that I feel that I've had to own as part of my identity, is just that I grew up in a very small town and had minimal exposure to anyone that was different from me. And I know that as I'm learning and educating myself and flexing those muscles, that at times I'm going to screw up and I'm not going to say the right thing, or I'm going to say something that has good intentions but isn't coming out right. And I am open to and am looking for correction there. Not that I want to put that on someone to have to do, but I want that accountability, that if I'm not saying the right thing, if I'm not doing the right thing, that someone can say, hey, have you considered this? Could you try this instead? Could you say that instead? And I think when it comes to the cops, who is that kind of correcting body? Who would be the one when they walk out of that training that says, you're not actually practicing what you just learned? And as they're practicing that, it's going to be on, Black and brown people, that they are flexing their new muscles and getting it wrong. And there's not anyone there that's going to be standing over them to say, that's not how this is supposed to go, and that's not what you just learned. And so really, there's also that accountability on each other as police, that they would have to stop each other from being the bad egg, and they're not. And so it is that kind of, I see now where I see people calling for, or even just latest, like, oh, celebration, they're going to be forcing all these cops to do bias training. And it's like, great, they'll get a certificate they can hang on their wall that says that they did a training, but where is that check and balance that they've actually learned anything from that, and they're actually practicing anything from it, and there's any accountability there to unteach those bad behaviors, and that isn't being built in. So maybe if that was some reality, things could be different, but it's not. And it was very mind-blowing to me, because cool, a training can teach someone, education is important, it's a resource, it's a tool, it's one thing in a toolbox. But when you do think about, why aren't we just investing in in our communities' lives and their livelihood, and trying to support and lift each other up, rather than train cops to be nice? Like, it just doesn't make sense. It feels backward.
Well, and like I said, what you were referring to was when I said that we're not going to train white supremacy out of law enforcement at this point. And so I think the other thing that we have to understand is that education only works if you want to learn, right? Like, for example, we have people who still believe that the earth is flat.
Exactly.
Have they not ever been taught? Is the information not available to them? Has not the entire scientific community not said, actually, you all, that's not, nope, no. And so like, you have to be willing to accept facts, and white supremacists seem to be impervious to the fact that they are causing violence to Black people. Actually, let me take that back. White supremacists are fully aware that they are causing violence, and they don't care. And then there's a whole other section of white people who protect them because of their own fragility around whiteness. And so it's like, this is not new information, and we keep inviting opportunities for them to harm. I don't know, am I back? This internet, I tell you what, y'all.
You're frozen.
I can't tell if it's me that's frozen, if it's all of us that's frozen.
Oh, now you're back.
Just gonna wait. Bear with me, everybody.
It'll catch up.
I can hear in blips. Oh.
I really should have prepared some magic tricks for y'all. Or like dance party.
Am I back?
Yeah.
I think I'm back. Okay. So what I was saying before the internet decided I can't be on the internet anymore, is that, you know, there has been research that's shown that if someone in particular, like we're talking about law enforcement, did not care or did not want to learn, then it doesn't work, number one. Number two, even if they are open, then some of the trainings actually cause shame and defensiveness. And we've seen videos, there goes Levi, we've seen videos of law enforcement across the country talking about how great they are and how they feel attacked, that have been spliced with acts of violence against Black and brown people. And so if they're not even willing to accept that their own community is causing so much harm, and are willing to have full-on conference, like you know, press conferences to say that everything they're doing is fine, what chance do I have, or does the Black community have, to even enter into that conversation at all?
Yeah. If police officers as a whole don't see this as a problem that is genuinely an issue that we all know that it is, then they're not going to listen. They're not going to hear. They're not going to be able to be trained any differently. And the alternatives of, and now I don't know why it is. It's an eye-opening moment when you can step away from the scary sounding words, defund, whatever, and actually think about like, okay, putting more resources into the police force world. Like, what does that do? And we don't necessarily get control of that. So we hand over money to their budget that goes into body cameras that they don't turn on and bigger weapons. And I mean, like, what control does a community have with that to ensure that, you know, putting more resources and putting more education into our police department is actually creating a safer world? And I don't know that there's ever been enough accountability there that they are giving back that information to their community of how they're keeping them safe. And I think that would be a great expectation out of our police, is to actually, where's your annual report that shows how many lives you actually saved, rather than, you know, scared or killed or whatever, with the resources that they're getting. And it just seems like people, it's such a touchy subject. It's such a subject that people are scared is political. And that has boggled my mind lately also, is like, your life is not political. Like, you are my cousin, you are my friend, you are my peer, you are a leader in our community. Me wanting to protect you and your family and everyone isn't a matter of politics. It's literally human kindness and
unfortunately, but it is political. Like, my very existence is, you know, you've probably seen that quote, like, my existence is resistance. Like, the fact that Black people even exist is political resistance, because politically we have been, you know, bombed out of whole communities. We have, you know, the drug on war, the war on drugs targeted our communities. I mean, this history has shown that we as people are political, just by our existence. And so I think that for me, the issue is flipped. I think when I hear people say that they don't want to get into politics, like, I see that as like, politics work for me, so why would I ever invest any time in making sure that this political system that we've created protects you? Like, what does that matter? And in particular, like, but yeah, like, people who, the other thing that I don't think that people are reckoning with in terms of the reform measures, are not accessible. They're not accessible to people with disabilities. So, you know, if you yell at someone who's deaf to warn them that you're going to shoot them, but you still shoot them, how does that serve them? If a person who is nonverbal or who is neurodivergent doesn't understand instructions that you're giving them, and so you tase them, or if they're having a mental health crisis, and, you know, we have seen lots of Black women who have literally been tased and in mental health crisis. And so I just want to invite people to really look at how often we have said, how often your community, how often the nation has asked for reform, and how much has the situation improved because of reform. Because I think that that's something that we have to reckon with, is the fact that this has been something we've asked for. And I keep saying we, but I don't mean we. And some Black people have been asking for it, but asking for reform. But there is a whole catalog of abolitionists in the world who have been asking for the police to be defunded and eventually abolished, because it does not serve Black communities and has caused harm to Black communities. So, having said all of that, where are some spaces that you feel like there are opportunities or possibility?
Possibility, like where I feel hopeful with that. think there's so much. I feel hopeful that there are so many voices getting louder, and that in spaces where the kind of common voice would just quiet people down and say, this isn't our problem, don't worry about it, is gone. In my world, at least. I know it's not like that everywhere, but I think people are finally seeing that we can't just be complacent. We can't just not worry about the problems that don't matter to us. And I think there's so many people trying to educate themselves that I think that we have an opportunity to genuinely create resources that genuinely help each other. I think I shared this on my personal Facebook, but we have the reason I am not outside right now in the beautiful weather is because we have a crazy neighbor that keeps wandering outside completely naked, and is not someone that we feel comfortable just knocking on their door and having a conversation. And I had this realization the other day that this is exactly one of those scenarios that if we had resources where I could call a number and have someone that is trained as a social worker that could come over and check on this individual, make sure that they are okay mentally, physically, someone that is, has training in addiction and other things that have been problematic for us, rather than, we called the cops. We didn't want to, but what other resources exist? And the cops don't care. That's not their job. They don't want to have to deal with those situations. And so that was one of those in practice moments that is possibility and opportunity that feels so obvious, that if we could be supporting our community members and our neighbors literally, that would be trying to lift them up and help them to find help and resources instead of just trying to get each other in trouble, that is going to change humanity so much. I feel possibility, but I do feel that I don't want my white brothers and sisters to let up on the gas. I don't want them to give up. I don't want them to have their week and their 15 minutes of fame of being an ally and for fighting for supporting our community, and then thinking that this is that thing. Like, we've arranged a training and that was good enough and we've done our job. And like, I posted on Facebook for a week and that was good enough and I've done my job. I've raised awareness. And so that possibility feels like we're there. We just have to keep the gas on and continue to let our Black community lead this charge and be the voice that is the experts, and that we can continue to learn. And any of those points that feel, this is uncomfortable. She just said the word abolish, and that sounds like a scary word. I'm going to go Google it and figure out what that actually means, and then keep moving forward, and not let those things that scare you actually hijack you from doing anything. And that is where I feel like there's so much opportunity, but the opportunity and the possibility really only exists if people are willing to keep getting uncomfortable daily, weekly, until we actually have genuine reform, and then, or abolish the police. And then we go from our community to the next community. And so I hope that people don't, that's what I'm worried about, my white brothers and sisters, of them getting tired and giving up. And we can't.
And I just want to say, just a quick oops, we don't want to call your neighbor crazy because that's ableist.
Thank you. I know.
But you're willing to be vulnerable. So, and you're my friend, so I can say that out loud. But,
yeah, absolutely.
And also, I think that you're 100% right. I'm trying to remember, and I'm sure there will be someone who will correct me if I'm wrong. But I believe it's Angela Davis who says, radical means pulling it out by the roots, right? And so I think that what people, like you said earlier, think of the police as a Band-Aid. Yeah. And what I'm interested in is I'm just transforming my community. And so that means that I have to always be thinking about, but what is the root? Where are those roots? Because I can always pull off a leaf. I can snip the top of the flower off. I can, there's lots of ways to go about getting rid of a thing that you don't want, getting rid of a weed you don't want, that just results in it digging its roots in deeper and and still growing. And so how do we manage our mental health in our community in a way that is healing and supportive and gets at the root? Because I think that's the other reason why people don't understand, when I say abolish the police, I'm saying that I want to get at the root. I want to get to the point where we're not responding to crime, that we are responding to people's basic needs. And so we don't have children who are going hungry because we have decided that funding can actually make sure that our kids' food is not attached to their ability to be in school. All children should be able to eat all the time. And so if we can exchange tear gas for food, I'm into it. If we can exchange, riot gear for mental health for our children, so that there's like 1.7 million kids in schools that do not have therapists. If I can exchange the juvenile justice system for restorative justice practices, that's where I want to spend my money, because I'm imagining that when I am dead and gone and no one is worried about me anymore, that my children will live in a very different world than the one that we exist in right now. And if that is not true, then what is the point? And what are we doing? Because if the world doesn't get safer, more whole, more healed, then everything we're doing doesn't matter, because it's not actually transforming the community. And so I'm so glad that people are open and are learning about these ideas and are wrestling with them. And I want to create space for that process, but I'm also really grateful that, like you said, that you're willing to be like, actually, Black people should be leading this. Like, we need to, and me as a Black woman, I need to be following the leadership of Black trans women who are more in the crosshairs than I am, right? Like, so paying attention to the people who are the most impacted by the harm and listening to what they need. And as a survivor who has worked with survivors, what is really interesting to me is watching survivors be like, actually, yeah, no, I called the police and they were not helpful to me in these very specific ways. And so survivors actually having a hard time grasping the need to defund the police, because their first contact in many times, like when they do actually call the police, it's not a good experience. So I just have really appreciated that a bunch of, I've seen a lot of survivors, I've seen a lot of conversations with survivors, and it's very validating to me that what I realized is not, or what I was feeling is valid from a lot of different points. Yes, support and not punishment, absolutely. So I had another, what was my last question I was going to ask you? Where do you still feel a little challenged by this idea? And I know I said we were going to do this for 30 minutes, but I also told you that I do whatever I want. So
yeah. In response to that too, I was going to say, I had, in thinking when you asked me to do this, I had the realization, and even going off of Veronica's earlier this week, when we had the conversation about police in schools and that making children feel safer. So I grew up in a small town. We did have a police officer that was in our school. I was a DARE role model. He was, I don't know, he asked me to do all of the things, and I was one of his little, peons, which was fine. And I had that experience as a white girl. in high school. And it wasn't until I had this, like, did he ever make me feel safer? Like, did I actually ever feel safer because he was in the school? And we still had, you know, bomb threats and shooting threats and other problematic experiences that he didn't make me feel any safer. And now I think of, and this is, you know, irrelevant in the scheme of things, but now in finding and looking him up on Facebook, and I wonder what he's doing now, is a complete white supremacist that has moved to the South and is still a cop somewhere, and that's terrifying. And so I think of this exposure that we're giving to students, calling someone a good person just because that they have a badge on, that you should look up to them and they have, you know, all of these pieces about them that you're going to want to follow or should be supporting what they say. But if they're not even good people, what damage did we do that we didn't even realize? And what does that mean if the visual of a cop makes people feel more unsafe than safe? And that broke my heart when I think about that feeling scary. And not that I ever felt safer, but I never felt unsafe around a cop. And that just breaks my heart. We shouldn't force that opportunity or force that experience on anyone. That's traumatic in itself. And to think that just putting a police officer in a school is going to change behavior just seems so naive. And it's exactly what you said about pulling out at the roots. I can ask my problematic neighbor to put pants on, and if he puts pants on, great, but that still doesn't fix the issues that he has, that he needs the support and deserves the support. And I, as his neighbor, don't have those resources. And we need to do better to exactly find that root of the problem and stop trying to put Band-Aids on things. And I think, yeah, there's opportunity. It's challenged. I feel challenged by the individuals who will find any reason, who will find an out to anything. The people who are actually very fully low-key racist and will use whatever excuse to argue back on why this is a terrible idea. I feel challenged that I do have so many friends and family that have police officer husbands or wives or good law enforcement. I do feel very challenged by that I know there are good cops out there. And I know that there are even good cops out there that call out bad things and call out their bad peers. But as much as you can't, you know, the one bad apple ruins the whole bunch. It's true. And everything that I've said that is, why are we not holding higher expectations of our police officers? Why is it that we can allow there to be bad apples to begin with? The whole example of a pilot, you can't have a pilot that doesn't care about landing on the ground safely and then just say like, well, I'm a good pilot, he's a bad pilot, he can do what he wants. This is not a role that we can be playing with so much and just allowing Band-Aids to be the fix. We really need to, abolish the police. And she's frozen again. And no, and any form of racism really low key. No. That it's so bothersome though, also that we're in this world right now where people want to say that they're not racist and say, but I love Black people, and say, oh, I have a Black friend, and don't think anything of it. Ooh, don't give me a stage to myself. It's been scary to me to watch how many people will pivot from one one rebuttal to the next rebuttal to the next rebuttal that are all very racist, and have no plan to check themselves on that. Katie, I don't have a joke.
I'm pretty sure I missed a huge chunk of what you said.
I just was ranting. I figured I would
because my internet decided. Did you tell a joke?
No, of course. Psycho is going to have way better jokes than we have anyways. My jokes would be like, oh, wait. Why did the pirate have a steering wheel in his pants? What did he say? I don't know. It's driving me nuts. That's my joke.
I still laughed. It's fine. My internet is really challenging me today. So what was I gonna say? I was gonna say something in response to what you said. About having good cops in your family. The sad part is it's all comes down to our government allowing those who are racist to remain in office and continue the cycle. Absolutely. I mean, that is exactly part of the problem. And I think when I think about law enforcement that I know, that I have a relationship with, I think about the institution that they're a part of and how if they're not working to ask for the same things that I'm asking for, then they're actually not good cops, in my opinion. And so, if you are not asking for the removal of practices that over-police and over-criminalize Black and brown people, if you're not asking for defunding the militarization of our law enforcement, if you can't see that those things are harmful in your own institution, then you're not a good cop, in my opinion. And honestly, if I were, hello, have you heard of the Firecracker Foundation? If I had practices in my organization that were harmful to a whole group of people, and I found out about it and had like research from hundreds of years that said that the practices have developed are harmful of people, then I would stop doing those things. I wouldn't do those things anymore. And I would do everything in my power to make those things not happen anymore.
Yeah.
And those rebuttals, it's like there's a stack of whatabouts and but. Yeah, exactly. So I feel like the fact that, number one, people feel like they can't criticize law enforcement is a problem. And the fact that law enforcement themselves aren't being good cops in terms of protecting my community makes me feel like, actually, where are the good cops?
Yeah.
Unless they are vocal, then they're not. So East Lansing Public School just announced that they are pulling their resource officers. Some parents, all white, have lost their minds. They don't care to think about how it affects Black and brown students, especially the girls. So happy they will be out of our buildings. Yes. And that is to be expected. And I think my conversation I had with Melina this week was how willing white people are to sacrifice the safety of Black and brown people for their sense of safety. Even though police don't prevent violence, they respond to it. It's, yeah. So anyway, yes, that is definitely something. I'm really glad to see that East Lansing Public Schools has decided to make that decision. I look forward to seeing more schools making that choice because it is an important one. And then my final question is, what mug are you drinking out of today? Because this is becoming a thing. I want to know.
I changed mine from what I joked about earlier because I was needing to actually hydrate. So I just went with my Starbucks rainbowy adorableness. It's a little bit safer.
I'm actually drinking out of my Beyonce. How does cameras work? That's my Beyonce mug that Anna Olgin painted for me. Sometimes people think that I'm drinking out a mug of myself with cleavage, which I think is really funny. I do like myself a lot, but I don't typically drink out of mugs with my face on. Maybe I need to change that practice. Maybe I need a mug that's just me.
Yeah, I think you absolutely deserve a mug that is you. I would buy that mug.
Just me, just hanging out. Well, I appreciate you doing this with me, being vulnerable and talking about all of these really challenging issues. And I really hope that I'm really glad you're a part of my community, first of all. And I really hope that we're able to continue to invite people into their discomfort in a way that moves us towards really solid decisions. We only have so much time before the city is going to make a decision around how they're going to move forward with the city budget. And the more people who are willing to listen and be a part of this conversation, the more likely we are to be able to transform the harm that has been happening into healing, which is pretty much my whole life's goal. That's all I want to do. That's all I wake up for every day. Well, besides, the whole raising of my kids and all of those things. But so for those of you who are out there that are curious, we have a Facebook group called Firecracker Foundation Supporters. We are constantly providing links and information as well as opportunities to volunteer and be a part of the work that we do. Kristen has also driven some of our clients to their Sisters in Strength gatherings. We have lots of ways that volunteers help keep the organization going. Like us, follow us, click the little button that says get notified for live videos. We're going to be doing these a couple times a week and talking to a lot of different kinds of people that are thinking about all these things. Yeah, so thank you for joining us. And
can I say,
yeah,
for giving me this opportunity, and I encourage my white brother and sister community to keep making themselves uncomfortable and having these conversations amongst each other, to check each other and to also support each other and say, hey, I see you calling out that racist. And hey, I see you fighting kind of this hard fight, keep it up. But also doing the work and Googling and following the people that know what they're doing. And the fundraiser in me wants you to go to the Firecracker Foundation and make a donation on their page too.
Yeah, we will never, ever turn away donations. This work is intense and it's hard and it's forever because healing is a journey. It's not a destination. So the more that you can fund our work, the better off our whole entire community will be. So I too would like you to drop some dollars. Just your expendable income, just what you have, that'd be fine. But truly, we really appreciate it. And as we go into the next of our work, we know that our work is going to become even more critical in this community. So thank you for being here. Oh, and look, other side, look at that. Look at that little baby picture. Look at that. I didn't even see that. That's my husband with our firstborn. Aww. Okay. Do it for the children. Okay. Thank you all for being here, and we'll see you next time.